Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be motivated by your host, Reverend John Wheeler! Now shut up! You shut up! Sit down! Shut up! Shut up!
And we're rolling in our creepy green tribute to the fighting people of the greater Chernobyl area, also known as the Ukraine, which I didn't know until the Chernobyl movie came out, which is like, you know, the three-part, I'd call it a movie, I wouldn't call it a miniseries, right. Or five-part.
Well, I mean, it's a 6-part miniseries.
Five or six? Yeah. But I mean, like, I would have sat in the theater watching that from beginning to end. I mean, my ass would have been sore, but I would have been riveted. Like, even when I thought they were starting to lose it a little bit, you know, it's like, oh, this one's like the courtroom scene. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a little less horror movie-ish, but it, you know, like when the Geiger counters are just going under that thing and their lights don't work anymore, and it's just like horrifying. That would have been a weird part in an actual movie though, because then it just turned out it was fine. Like, it was way scarier when I had to wait a week, because I was watching it like as it was happening. Because Alexis made me watch that rotten fucking last season of Game of Thrones, which is the most Game of Thrones I ever watched. So, like, guess what my general opinion of people who just love that show is. But I know there's better ones. I kind of piecemeal saw earlier ones, and I like the characters and the murders and the things that happen in it, and the boobs and wieners, and it's all good stuff. But then, like, we wrangled some version of HBO back then just to, like, watch it. And then it got over, but then the first thing that was advertised after it was, check out this gritty Christopher Nolan-esque telling of, like, the Chernobyl disaster, starring, like, Jared Harris, who I like from Mad Men, and all these other people, and it's just in Russia. But it's in Russia, but not in Russia. See, and that's the thing. Like, I got all excited about it, and it was really great. But, like, I forgot. It's like, oh, it's actually in the Ukraine. And Russian stuff is weird. Like, it's all these countries become part of Russia and then not part of Russia again. It'd be like if here and again Texas actually was like seceded, and then Mexico had it again for a while, and then there's by itself for a while, and then we got it back, and then they left, and then we get our own fucking whoever in the future, the cowboy hat, like George W. Boot Scootin' Putin or whatever the hell, and he's like, we're gonna get Texas back, and then like almost everyone in both countries dies, and it's like, well, that was a good idea. But, see, I didn't realize Chernobyl, when I heard about it as a kid, because I saw things about it. It happened in 1986. I was around. I was in, like, kindergarten or first grade or something. Like, I remember the Challenger disaster. I remember, like, which was an exciting day, because normally when you get, you know, like, oh, we're going to go watch something on TV, kids, or, like, talk to some, like, the John Mulaney thing. It's, like, the guy that's just like, I smoke crack cocaine, kids. Don't be like me. But I've been clean for 2 weeks. Well, weekdays, not weekends. Weekends, that's Nunzio's time. It's one of my favorite bits, because they're going to assembly, and they're like, at least it's not school. But we'd already been burned. Much like the brave people of the Challenger many times before. Because it's like, oh, we went to something and it just sucks, and it's like boring and whatever. And they're like, we're going to watch something go into outer space. And me and the other nerds were kind of excited, and then still kind of nobody else was. But it was also... yeah, it was like the mid-'80s, so a TV screen still kind of had that new, like, oh, wow, this isn't an old lady droning on forever. This is that thing like at home with the Nintendo on it. I love that. But then the Challenger exploded, and then me and some of the nerds, who are also kind of bad, cheered because, okay, normally on a TV screen when a spaceship blows up, it's Star Wars. It's exciting. But they were making us watch it because there was like a teacher on board, and the teacher started crying, and we got really excited. We're like, boy, the rest of this day is just going to be a wank now. They're all sad. I'm all jazzed up. I think we got to go home. And then there weren't cell phones, so, you know, going home in the middle of the day was pretty great because nobody knew where you were.
I had a similar incident in high school where, you know, it was this incident where a plane flew into a building. And then when they made the announcement over the overhead...
Is that Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I forget you're a little older than I am.
And, you know, they announced it over the overhead, and I'm like, because, like, just like, you know, they just announced like a plane flew into the World Trade Center.
Hey,
Like,
whoop.
that's like,
Just assume it's like like a guy from the Apple. What was that thing? Like a biplane that the Simpsons ripped off when they all went looking for the cat burglar's treasure. And they're like, whoop, boo-doo, boo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and everyone was like, so I imagine it was like a guy in like a Red Baron biplane, just been like, oh, I had too many pastrami sandwiches, and just went. It was like a fucking thing that George W. Bush had thrown together, and yeah, you know, good on him. He didn't seem like the kind of guy that could pull off something that elaborate, because he was just this real dumb guy who had a rich dad who was also president before, which no one also thought was. Well, I did. It was perhaps concerning to some degree, especially when his president dad, senior, because W is W, but they're a bunch of Texas Cowboys. George Bush Sr. is Boot Scootin' Putin, because Putin was the head of the KGB before he became the president for life. And George Sr. was the head of the CIA, which is that. But then he was just a one-termer. Because Bill Clinton can spin a yarn. Or something. I don't know what happened. NAFTA. Another afternoon fucking that ass.
Wait, so George Bush Sr. was a late-term abortion?
Yeah. I think so. I think that was my point. I'm not really sure anymore. I know that, like, Prescott Bush sold oil to the Nazis and stuff, but who didn't? And that's where their money to, get into the government came from. But I'm sure that's nothing that's worth being concerned about. And the thing is, he was pushing for abortion and all that stuff. And so everyone that was also into that told me to shut up with all of my rich conflict of interest CIA plant Nazi oil money stuff, because that's just getting in the way of the Jesus man that's running for president. And then they finally got their wish. But, 9/11, what the hell? I was talking about... Chernobyl, because you're green. Yeah, that has nothing to do with what I was going to talk about. Oh, right, no.
Oh, Challenger.
Right, no, hang on, though. Chernobyl, I learned that was actually in the Ukraine. And then I learned that in that miniseries. And then I forgot that that's how it worked, and I learned it again when the war happened. I'm like, oh, that's like a different country.
Right.
But it wasn't always.
Right. Well,
that's just, again, like, the Texas thing. Boot Scootin' Putin, though, that's good. Fuck me. All right. So this if you've sat through it, because see, I had an idea, because I've gotten mixed up in something that's so new that if I tag this up correctly, it's going to be the kind of thing with very few videos about it and a lot of people desperately trying to figure out how it works on YouTube. And unfortunately, that's going to be a lot of people that kind of click on this and then click right off of it again. But if you've waited to this point because you're like, look, it's an hour long. I bet they're going to explain it really good. You idiot. But but you're like, fuck, I just started making macaroni and cheese. My fingers are all whatever. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just let it run. Well, here's your reward. And for the rest of you, this will be confusing and maybe even concerning, because it'll sound a lot like I'm making this up, but I'm not. There is this thing that it was actually our friend Meredith. A friend of some artist friend of hers was monkeying around with this thing like really early on. Like he knew somebody there or something. I don't know. And she tried to describe it to me, and I was like, I don't care. Like it sounded only because she didn't describe it all the way. Because it's a little hard to describe, but she also hadn't really heard anyone else break it down. So I was, on that game of telephone. I was the last operator, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Is it not for video? Then I kind of don't care. Silly me, because I'm also a still graphic designer, and I've literally had months worth of rent and bills in the past just making T-shirts for one weird thing. And so I mean, it matters a little. Band T-shirts for my own thing and posters and flyers. I like messing with Photoshop, especially to use it to make lies and things happen. But that's why I like video too. But she was like, it's this weird photo thing. I'm like, huh? But then she came back and was like a little while later and was like, oh, it's actually an AI assisted thing that sweeps the whole internet for images and stuff. The same way, do you ever hear about that thing where they're trying to view people's dreams and stuff? You know, like they use something. Actually, this is going to come up in a minute. But it's like, it's these blurry, weird pictures by mapping all the synapses and things like that, and they can figure out somehow or another by the triggers that then they use images that are like close enough or something to compile these dream images. And apparently, like, they've gotten to where it's like it looks kind of fucked up, but you can kind of be like, I remember seeing that sort of. Like, they're getting there. So anyway, this Midjourney thing is like, you go through Discord, right? Like, it's not a piece of software you can have. And I think part of the reason for that is that I don't care what computer you have. I'm almost positive it couldn't really run it. Like, I think it has to be, like, connected to, like, a network or something and, like, a bunch of huge computers. Like, it's insanity. Plus, I also am going to guess that these guys don't want this software just out there to be tinkered with. But yeah. There's a huge waiting list for the beta, and I saw things about it, and I nearly peed my pants. You get in with this Discord server thing, and then you just send the bot or whatever direct messages, and you just you say, like, imagine, or whatever the prompt is. Because I don't know. I've used Discord to talk to other, like, YouTube weirdos, but I'm not an expert on it. I was pretty late to the game. I don't really get it. But I get it just fine. But you can do all these weird things with it. But yeah, so you send it this thing, and it sends back, look, 4 images. And what you do is you go like, okay, I want, like, a carnival at night in the distance with moody, dramatic 1970s film lighting or whatever. My favorite thing to do is at the end, just go in the style of. And any artist. I mean, people were making stuff that was like, Giger's dead. And this, like, looks like he did it. But the thing is, to be like, okay, you want, like, you go Triceratops riding a tricycle, right? You can just do that, let's say. And just be like, make it look like watercolor, maybe you add, just for fun or something. And you will get that back. And it will not be anything. It wasn't like, oh, we found you this image. The best thing is when there doesn't happen to be a watercolor painting of a Triceratops on a tricycle anywhere, ever. But it just combs the metadata of Triceratopses and tricycles and what people look like when they're riding them and what Triceratopses are riding. And it draws, like those images I was showing you, it creates those from nothing. It's not smashing them together. It just does that. I'm not sure that even other people that are using this completely understand the ramifications of this thing. Because, like, yeah, I don't know if you're finding it. It's that, and yeah.
I got a variation of that that'll...
Oh, there's been more than one, but apparently Midjourney is well, not apparently. I got in. Like, I figured out what it was. I watched some YouTube videos. I flipped the fuck out. And then I was like, okay, it's going to be like a long wait, right? You know, a couple weeks waiting list to get into the thing. And but what they allowed you to,
I typed in Reverend John Wheeler and style of Studio Ghibli. That's what I got.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a chance, Midjourney's so plugged in, there's a chance that if you're using that, there's enough tagged or named whatever on Google and stuff, pictures of me from when I was in SMB, that it actually might have just worked. Like, it might have come up with an old band picture that looked like that, because it's so deep. Like, it is... But yeah, it's a lot like what you found there. But it's just that operating at a level that's fucking unbelievable. And the way that it kind of works. Oh, but let me get back to my point. Is that, so people were like, yeah, it takes like weeks to get in if you're lucky, blah, blah, blah. But they let you give. They're like, well, what kind of things do you do? What are you a part of? And also, like, tell us a little bit about this and why you think it might be interesting or whatever. And I'm a pretty good writer, bullshitter, you know. So I wrote this impassioned thing about the art and music, or something I've always done, you know, visual and audio, in an attempt to almost circumvent language in a way to touch the human soul. And them making like a machine that is probably going to help us get closer to something that could pass the Turing test, not even fooling, but perhaps because it has a soul. You know, like, because we're training it to create art based off of this, like, criteria and stuff. And anyway, like, it wasn't like, I wanted to kind of use it because I make, like, t-shirts and I want to, like, fool around with it or whatever. I was like, no, I wrote this crazy thing. I spell checked it. I sat on it for like an hour or two and went back to it. I was like, okay. And I got in like 2 days later. Like, they were like, you have an invite. And maybe they're loosening it up, but I want to pretend that I talked my way into this, because why else would they ask you for a few paragraphs of shit? And, like, I think they are a little discerning with it and all. But one of my points before I get back to the Midjourney thing truly is that if it was so that I talked my way in, it made me miss talking my way into stuff. And I think that, like, I think that's trying to be made into like a dead art by some awful force. I don't know what exactly. And I don't think it's happenstance though either. Because this world runs on bullshit. Completely. Money isn't a thing. Like, we're just skin bags wandering around doing stuff, but then we can like go to outer space and eventually we're gonna figure out time travel. I mean, it's crazy, but like, it's just, some people have a lot of knowledge, and then eventually it won't matter because some super intelligent computer will just have all that knowledge and we just access it, and it's like, then we just kind of need people that have kind of better critical thinking skills that are creative will end up being very important. But like, I feel like someone's trying to... No one wants creative people running the show because things get too interesting, and then boring people that are good at numbers stop being the richest people in the world, and no one wants that. They want to keep using us. As Don Draper once said, creative, the most important, least important part of everything, or whatever. And I agree with that. And I feel like with all the, like, do everything from home, just be on a computer, just submit it, whatever. It's like, you're destroying the fine art of the bullshit artist. Which is, I think that's terrible. Because there's a lot of reasons on paper why I, like, couldn't get into things, but then I just go talk to people, like people running for Hennepin County Sheriff or whatever, and, like, just kind of be like, no, look at it this way. And they're amazed with me, and then they let me do whatever I want. And I don't want to be in a stack of files or whatever, like in a list, waiting, because there's going to be all these other people who are way more qualified getting in my fucking way. And I don't want to live in that world, Bill. I really don't. Like, I won't want to live in a world where people who just like, well, we paid to go to college for 8 years and then we, yeah. And it's like, yeah, but are you really going to be able to talk the pants off this computer when it starts getting mouthy? No, I can do that. That's nothing for someone who's like educated and good at their job. That is work cut out for a maniac, someone that can swindle people. Just a little. You know, as a treat. You're so what are you doing? Oh, have you gotten into it?
Yeah.
You got into Midjourney?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're letting everybody in now.
Yeah.
That's fine.
In the last, not even minute.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
15 people have joined.
Okay, but are you able to use it?
I'm learning how to use it right now.
Okay, well, learn how to use Midjourney, Bill.
I'm sorry, I'm not taking notes right now.
That's fine. It's fucking fascinating. I'm just winging it here. But yeah, I was experimenting with this thing so fucking much, and it does take, you gotta get the hang of explaining it to it correctly what you want it to do. Also, there's some really interesting things where it's like, I got the paid subscription because it makes it, like, it just gets sent directly to you, and it's, like, unlimited, but it's, like, $10 a month. I have never been so fast to sign up for a $10 a month service as I have for this thing in my whole life. Because you can use it the way, you know, people just kind of like, it's chaos in there, but it's so much nicer to be able to just, I don't know. I hope this is interesting. Okay, so now we're up to what? Jana and Joseph, who are both people who I'm sure will be listening to this. I hope, go find this thing. I mean, you can use a free version of it if you're, you know, whatever, like if you don't have money, but also if you have like $10 a month, you can do whatever you want with it. But yeah, it's like you don't own the things you make because it was made by a computer, not you. Right. But the rules are that you can use it for whatever you want. It's just that like other people could too.
Right. Because there's like 50 channels. And,
yeah.
Everyone's just kind of typing stuff in there.
Are you seeing any results though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're seeing where you get it spits out 4 things that are a little low res, and then you can either go expound on one of them, and it'll make 4 more based off of that. Like, it's that thing I put on Facebook of like President Charles Manson as an ad for the Caboose show. I just wrote President Charles Manson, like cinematic, dramatic film lighting or something like that. And I got all of these insane pictures of Charles Manson in a suit with stars and stripes on it, but he still had like one whited out eye and blood on him for some reason. I made a bunch of pictures of Ron DeSantis, who's going to be the next president. I'm almost 1,000,000% certain.
Want to see a cave painting of Motley Crue eating Big Macs?
Yeah, see, this thing is the best thing. Like, the minute I was like, oh, it might take time to get in, whatever. But see, this is why I'm screaming about it now and tagging this thing all up. I might even put this out tomorrow because everyone's going to be talking about this. That is so fucking, yeah, Motley Crue eating caveman Motley Crue in the style of a cave painting, like in front of a giant McDonald's logo. No, yeah, fuck. I made like, this thing, it was like Undead Mr. Peanut. That was awesome. I made, Alexis, I made her Cerberus, but I put in the style of Zadislav Beksinski, the guy who's this arm. It did a Beksinski, like, it looked like he did it. And if you know, are you familiar with that artist at all? Look him up and look up some of his paintings. He's one of my favorite. He's like him or like Giger is a little bit on the nose sometimes. Beksinski uses color in a really interesting way. They're the top two. And also the only time I've ever seen an original by either was at that At Home with Monsters thing that Guillermo del Toro had at the thing. There was an original Beksinski, and I was the only one there that realized how important that was because he's dead too. He got stabbed by someone in Poland over a matter of $50 or something. But as artists die, except for it sounds like that was in the 1800s, and I think it was in like 1995. But yeah, he's. I'm
just looking at other people's stuff. I can't decide what
go
to type.
Look up Beksinski and then start typing things with him in there. Just trust me, because then you could do like Bud Light can in the style of Zadislav Beksinski. You're also going to need to look him up and have Google correct however it is you spell it, because I couldn't possibly tell you how to fucking spell that. But I love how this backfired so much, so because I'm like,
I was actually pretty close.
There you go. Like, I wanted to get your reactions on this thing because my friend Peter Pepper, who was in town this week, from the old school band Retardobot that Screaming Monkey Boner used to play with all the time. Now, that was a double headlining bill that people wouldn't be happy to read right now, and some actually were pretty, like, upset with it back then, even, like, 2004. That was fun. But I was like, you should, like, re-release something under that name just for the shit. And then Peter's, you know, he owns like real estate. He's doing all right for himself. I mean, he's always running in circles fixing things and stuff. But I mean, I think he's the kind of guy, and Peter, if you're listening, that you could drop a little scratch to like put out a new Retardobot song and then put it out so that like it gets a bit of a PR job or things have to write it up. And then everyone will be very, very upset with the name. And just like something I was saying to Bill earlier about an invention I was thinking of that I can't repeat on here, even if it doesn't work, there's like a really good chance everyone will know who I am for a day or two. And then hopefully I got some new music out. And those will be the people that go back to this podcast like I was talking about on that other one a few weeks ago, who will be digging through it looking for something incriminating. And they'll find lots of it. But it'll be too late. I'm above all that. Hey,
Looks like some people.
could you grab me that scrap of paper, though, please? I realize I forgot that, and I got to kind of hold this down and not stop talking, because that's the only charm. Thank you so much, Bill. I actually, like, wrote down notes. I only wrote down, like, single, you know, like that women need to buy a gun thing that's turned into a half hour long. Yeah, like the fourth, and it's a storage unit, 22 long rifle. Okay, so I got a bunch of other things.
So this guy tried to use this, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But everyone else, like, there's
Well, you have to put in the prompt for the imagine thing, and you have to, it has to turn into like a little black rectangle, or it won't work. And I was watching people not get it. But I mean, yeah, if you put like Donald Trump is the fattest man in history, and like hobo clowns are washing him in the style of Disney or something, you'll get something weird, and you might have to try a few times, but it's like you'll end up eventually with something pretty close. And at least it will be horrifying. Yeah, now I'm just trying to remember all the things I did. Oh yeah, well anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far because you were interested in the thumbnail that said robots did this, robots did that. That was Skeleton Rave, which Skeleton Rave, like 80s neon lighting, cyberpunk or something. And I actually got, that was like a throwaway one. You get all these alternate versions. And when you do the paid one, you get unlimited. So, and it doesn't do this. You just get your own private thing. So like, there's ones where I've went back because I can just use as much as I want. And I'm like, you know what? Remember when I made that skeleton rave thing, but before I did it as like neon? Because the original one just looked like the Disney film, like a Ghostbane video or something. It just was like a gray graveyard skeleton rave. And I was like, that's not exactly what I want for trying to promote this thing. So I added all the neon. I just thought rave would add the color. It kind of didn't, though. It just was... you know, I think I've realized there's a literalism to it that takes a little bit of effort to keep in mind. Because a real skeleton rave, like if skeletons just came out of the graveyard and had a rave, there wouldn't be lasers and there would be like a gray kind of, you know, ghastly affair. They were dancing.
Got 77% so far.
Yeah, what did you type in?
Satanic Minds on the style of Son of the Boards.
Boy, that is, I mean, I love what I'm seeing too. Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry this is a radio show. Well, I could rig it up so we could watch this on the screen, but I'm not going to. Which, by the way, if I actually did that, the next 17 episodes of this would just be me and Bill be like, hey, look at that, and just that'd be all we fucking do. But yeah, like that Mr. Peanut thing, which I also told Peter he should use as single, because here's the thing, it is a little bit of a fudgy gray area where they're like,
God, I love these.
And dude, trust me. Just pick one to like upscale. Pick your favorite one and then do the full upscale and then click all the way through so you can see it full size. The detail on these things.
How do I click one?
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So whichever one you like, U is upscale. So just pick one.
Okay, upscale 3.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and you could also make the V is like you make 4 more off of whichever number. You know what I mean? That's how it works. So yeah, I'm sorry. This is like the worst. If you were like, how does this thing work? And you're just stuck with this fucking YouTube video. It's like, I can't really show you any of it. I'm describing it, just drunk. Like, but I don't know. Maybe this is truly the way to experience this explanation. Do you really want
Someone just typed in Fred Durst screaming, riding Splash Mountain at Disneyland.
God, that's exciting. I know. I've made using actual. I put like zombie Nikola Tesla's mugshot, and I got some fucking amazing things out of there. Actually, I made something I wanted to show Sam Dunn. Like if I ever have Ghost Eater do a remix of my solo project, which he's still down for and everything. And I'm doing remixes of old SMB songs in it. I mean, it's all a big mess. But his logo is like the Pac-Man ghost with like X eyes or whatever. So I put like Pac-Man ghost 1920s gangster mugshot, and the shit I got back was fucking amazing. Like it'd be like a Pac-Man ghost in like real 3D with like 3 eyeballs, like human eyeballs, but it was in that, you know, that aluminum film camera
These
type.
are kind of terrifying.
Yeah, they all turn out scary because, again, it's not like a collage or something. It's an actual machine learning how to take the information you've given it, look at the sources, and then draw something from its fucking imagination. I'll say that again. From its fucking imagination. Like, you almost can't wrap your head around how bizarre... So make sure this is running. Yeah. How bizarre this thing is. Like, because... Oh, by the way, I think I figured out... We should look into this eventually. But, you know, it's like... It's so cheap. It's like if you're in a company that makes over $1 million a year and you want to use it for things, it's like, well, that's going to cost you like $600 a year or something like that. Like it's and if you use it as to make NFTs, it's like, oh, it's like a small percentage if you make more than 30 grand a month off it somehow. So I mean, it's fuck all. It's really fuck all. It's like they're not really charging anything. And again, the actual thing is like $10 a month. There's a $30 a month one. But that's like Amazon, you know, who cares? It's like $100 a year. It doesn't matter. But, so...
It's like a Slayer album cover.
I know. But yeah, don't just make more upscale one all the way. The U does that, not V.
Alright, upscale all the way?
Yeah, just pick your favorite one out of all of that and then hit the U in front of the number. And then it'll give you an option to like do a full upscale, which will take a second. By the way, this is so fast. I mean... Think about what it's doing. The software's not even on your computer. It does these things in like 60 seconds. Like a supercomputer somewhere, some bunch of nodes or however it works, is combing the whole internet and using, again, its imagination and rendering it in like sometimes from far away it almost looks a little like a drawing, but when you get up close, you can see like the pores in what looks like skin skin if you put like photorealistic or like something like that as part of your explanation. And it, for one thing, the technology that NFTs are based off of is an important technology, but them being a cash grab or whatever is about to go away because of this. Because it'd be like, well, you can make NFTs with it if you want, but if everyone has access to it and it's dirt cheap, who the fuck cares? Like, you can never get it to do the same thing twice. You could type what you typed into it once every 5 minutes for the next 6 years. You won't see any of what you, like, nowhere close. Well, close, but not, it's not going to be the same ones. It's going to be completely varied and totally insane, but
that's amazing.
Yeah, Jesus, Saint Bernard.
Yeah,
there's a Saint Bernard with like a halo someone made, because you can see what everyone else is doing on here, and they can see yours unless you pay for it. But and I don't care if people see what I do.
Upscale to max.
Upscale to max, and then when it's done, click on View Original Image, and then scroll way in on it and have a look. I'm gonna print some of these out. Because you could pick the aspect ratio too. There's like a lot of little details. Like you can be like, because some of mine were like a thumbnail, but some were like the tall TikTok fucking thing. That's what I'm gonna start making horrific shit for TikTok, and then like in that format of something with a face, who knows what, and then use that thing where you can kind of puppet the eyes and mouth with it, and just talk through these nightmares to the children of TikTok. I think that's until I lose a little bit more weight, that's what everyone's going to get to look at. And I'm going to have some opinions about some things, as I always do. Yeah, the level of detail is a thing to note. And my theory about this is that I was mentioning that thing where they're starting to be able to view people's dreams, right? Because the machine that views the dreams has to be very imaginative to translate the electronic impulses. It's not like a signal going to a TV screen. Like, it's not a copy of something, right? It's figuring out what these impulses in your brain mean, and it translates them into something that you can look at and go, oh yeah, that's what I was dreaming about. So what do you think this is doing? This is a giant training camp for stuff like that. Everybody using this, and this is how everything works now anyway, so I don't think I'm too fucking far off here. But everybody, fucking, even if it's only nerds, that's like millions of people. Like, if it never catches on with the public because they won't understand how to use it, or they'll get bored with it right away, or I don't even know. I think this might end up being a giant thing, which is why I was so desperate to get a YouTube video branded full of it, just like as soon as possible, so if it just blows up. And I noticed that they just started letting everybody in. But yeah, okay, go to Open Original, right down there. There you go. And then, yeah, hit the zoom in, and then look around at that. And I mean, you can, I don't know, do the thing with your fingers on there, or is that just a Mac thing?
I don't like this thing.
No, I know. I just want you to look real close at the detail. You can, like, see fibers in the canvas it's supposedly painted on. I mean, so what it's doing is it's just, it takes track of the ones that you pick. It takes track of, like, it's trying to map the human subconscious to an AI. This is what this is doing. And so they'll be able to, like, get more accurate images by reading your mind. And I don't know who's behind it completely, because whoever says they're behind it, there's someone behind them. I guarantee it. You just don't know. Whether it's Neuralink or whether it's those other things trying to, but this is a mental imaging apparatus. Well, Bill, right now it's going to be really hard because we're doing a podcast, and
I'm sorry.
And I'm yelling. No, I'm not saying you can do it if you want, but my point is I don't know if you're going to be able to think of stuff that's all that creative with just me. And I would help, but it will not be interesting to the audience. We will have fun when this is done.
Yes.
And we will have a lot of fun, and we will laugh and laugh and laugh at how stupid and gross we are, and it's going to be good, but that won't be any fun for people just watching. And again, I can't put it on the screen, and again, if I could, the next 17 episodes would just be us making make a butt with a face coming out of it, and it's like Beavis, and it's on fire, and it's doing cocaine. Hey, look at that. Even when it gets it wrong. One of my favorite things, though, artists to pick are the romance painters that were really, really realistic, like Caravaggio. He did those ones that, when people say this looks like a Renaissance painting, they're usually talking about him. Doing everything in his style gives you like these just like realistic religious paintings versions of things. And like I put like a riot in hell, and it's like a bunch of burly, like bearded, like, I don't know, tri-corner hat era looking dudes, just muscular and naked, just wrestling in this fire pit. Like, it's fucking like, I didn't even put muscular naked dudes. I promise. Charlie, I didn't put, it just does that. It does whatever you put in there. Yeah, but how come whenever you write something, it's also just like a muscular naked guy doing it, Like, I feel like, no, Charlie, it interprets things. It's a computer. Do you know how computers work? I know how computers work, man. Just listen. Anyway, I always like being a fucking Mac from Always Sunny trying to convince everyone that he's not doing something gay on purpose is one of my favorite. Even me and Peter were doing it because I was encouraging him. I would make a little music video for Peter Pepper for fun. Like, it's not like he was like hiring me to do some big thing, but I was like, here's a track I have. Let's have you yell over it, and then we'll go downstairs and I'll film you in front of the green screen. I'll just fill in the blanks later. But we were trying to figure out what to have him do. And it's like, yeah, you can, lip sync the thing and whatever, but it's like, you gotta, and I'm gonna make it a lot of computery, graphic-y like I do. But like we're trying to convince him to do something, so he was like watching Michael Jackson videos or something, like just off to the side, like, okay, like, but yeah, it's like you got to do it more intense. And he was just like evil dance moves. I'm like, that's it, bro, evil dance moves. And that was a very Mac from Always Sunny moment him and I had, which was very funny. And by the way, that song that I'm working on with Peter is actually really good. I mean, it's not a surprise because obviously he had a nice little music career, and I literally get paid to punch up people's and mix and remix and make songs for people and stuff. So like obviously him and I are working together, and also we have similar goals in mind.
Wait, we'll see what happens.
Okay, I don't even know what you're doing. So, but clearly it's going to turn out good, but it's like really fun. Like he gave me some like vague criteria to make it sound like NERD, which I kind of didn't, but it ended up sounding not like what I would have come up with on my own because I was listening to them trying to figure out. But he was doing evil dance moves, and I think I'm going to make it just a very thing with like all the takes with his face on like cyberpunk screens, like surrounding the close-ups will surround him in this big like the Matrix, at the end when he's talking to the machine or whatever. But like uneven and big and crazy weird. I mean, you've seen the Black Moon Rising video. All kinds of weird, except this will be really colorful. But and then when he's doing all the evil dance moves, he's like not singing. So he's gonna be himself, this little character in this like giant techno punk fucking, I don't know, like room full of himself singing on all these like broken flickering screens and shit. I don't know, it'll be cool. Cause it's not like there's a story, and I also, truth be told, it's not going to be like a real music video. It's like the thing I've done for other people where it's like a visualizer plus. It's like, well, you're in it and some things are happening, but it's basically like one big thing rigged together so I can just let it run in After Effects. Because one of my favorite, I'm belying the fact that I'm also excited about Midjourney because I always yell about nerds, and it's like I am one though. Like I completely I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't like editing video as much as just setting up like programmed rigging for like something in one room and just moving around a virtual camera and whatever, and I'm sure that's super exciting to anyone that doesn't work with that kind of thing. But I like doing that because it's like a challenge getting it all put together, and then, having it run and then figuring out a way to make it interesting like the whole way, and using like audio to automatically trigger different like events and things. Like rigging the kick drum up to something that makes like certain lights flash, and then rigging, because if I make the song, I can also take it all apart and then run the individual instruments through different audio things that do different things whenever they happen to make a big wacky woo-wah. Except of course when I did Black Moon Rising, I did that and I did it 10 times and then just cut all 10 of those scenes that went the length of the video into a video. That's why that's so fucking elaborate. And that's why I'm excited about Midjourney, because it's just, you're using weird, like, I don't know how to draw. Well, let's take it like, I can draw like, okay, I can sketch things. I can even, if I practice, I can sit and draw someone's face and it's like not terrible, weirdly. Like John probably can't do that. Alexis is a lot better at it. She's also been practicing and doing some interesting abstract art, but that I've been enjoying quite a bit. But I can't draw like, okay, I have an idea, right? I want to see something. Like using it to goof around is fun. But I think I wrote like a little short movie screenplay. I told you about North of Hell, right? It was like a zombie movie I thought of, but it's like people, they figure out the best thing to do, or some people, is just to escape like way north, like into the Yukon or somewhere where the zombies kind of can't keep, they like freeze up. But then what it creates is now you're starving and you're hiding out in these awful things. And there are certain zombies that like somehow or another have just enough of something where they can kind of make it through though, but you have like limited. So basically you see one of these things on the horizon. It's like the opposite of a zombie movie where it's like, okay, it doesn't have like superpowers or not even fast, but you're so fucked already. And the ones that can make it are pretty robust. So you see one in the distance and you know that you're fucked. Like, you're going to have a mess on your hands. And, like, I was going to call it North of Hell. But then I was like, making that as a film, I don't have... Like, I could do it. I could make it look good. I could find a couple of people to act. But I'd have to probably film it out in the... I couldn't recreate artificially, you know, the snow and, you know, I could make a zombie. But it's like, it would have to... I wouldn't want to try to just make, I don't know what in After Effects, but I think it'd be pretty lame. So... it would just be really trying to, like, fucking actually make that thing the right way. But then I was like, oh, it could be a comic book, and I'll hire, like, Pookie or someone to just do my tattoo artist, to do all the imagery, because I want it to be really barren and dismal and, you know, frozen, and, you know, the people way up in the Yukon don't know what the fuck's going on. Maybe the cities are completely gone. Maybe everything's fine now. But the trip back, they're not going to... It's, like, still easier to stay put. Because they built a little cabin or something. You're like, well, okay. Like, we're, like, trapping, like, beavers or some shit to try to eat. Like, so it's a very, you know, there'll be no flashbacks to civilization. It's just this isolated thing, and it's just the people kind of discussing what happened. And you're like Cube, you know? You don't see all the shit outside of it, really. You're just sort of in the mess with them. And all they can do is guess as to what the fuck is going on. And I love that about that movie. I love how cheap and simple it was, but it seemed so big and elaborate. It was a very impressive little film experiment. But now, I just want to get really good at Midjourney, and it'll take a lot of trial and error, but just make like a little mini graphic novel thing where I just have it do all of the artwork. And yeah, it's like I won't own it, but I'll own the story. I could sell the book. And other people could just use the images for, like, I don't know, metal album covers or whatever they want. I don't know why you would, though, because you could just make your own with the same fucking thing. So it doesn't really matter. And it ended up being a little abstract. You know, it's like I can't have close-ups on certain characters.
Oh my god, yes.
Whatever. Bill is doing something exciting, I assume.
Yeah. So I took a Japanese artist and, like, classical Japanese.
Oh, I didn't even think of trying that one yet.
And then I typed in zombie time machine.
Oh my god.
So I'm upscaling this.
Wow. No, but some of them... Oh, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. It's how can... If you're building an AI to be able to, like, image people's dreams and recreate them, you're never going to be able to do that without this idea, without this thing that all these people are using, because no one would ever have thought of that. And now we know what it looks like. And it's just like, now it knows what it looks like. Now it knows also, you notice how there's 4 choices and it reminds you a little bit of like a CAPTCHA almost? Like, you could see, I didn't read this somewhere, but I'm almost positive that that's what this is for. And it feels so good. And they're going to come out and say it's not. And then in 10 years, when that dream mind reading thing is really big, there's going to be some tiny weird little article in some tech paper or something that talks about how this... Remember that thing 10 years ago everyone was obsessed with?
Jesus Christ. Civil War over endless pasta.
That is so beautiful. Wait, did you do that one too, or is it someone else's?
No,
okay. Yeah, and I love looking at other people's, like, they're just insane. Like, it's one of the most pure and joyful things that I've seen in a long time, and it's going to be directly responsible for possibly the very, very darkest last few years of humanity. Which we're well on our way anyway. It doesn't really matter. We deserve to at least go out with a bang. Like, we're gonna go out. But, you know,
Trump's hair alive on the ground, Canon 50 millimeter.
It looks like a Tribble from the old Star Trek.
Oh my god.
Yeah, choosing like camera lenses and all that, that's like super fun because it knows what that looks like.
I love this so much. Like,
yeah.
I want this painting that it just made up for me.
Well,
scale to the max.
Get the scale max thing, save it, because you don't, save the PNG or whatever, the full whatever, and go to a print shop and get a frame. I'm going to do that. Like, I want like a psychedelic 60s acid freak out picture of like Anton LaVey to like hang over my bar or something. Like that's what I want. The best part is too, is you can pick the aspect ratios. So rather than like, be like, fuck, I got to get a frame for this. I'm like, well, what's the cheapest frame that's like a decent size, or I got used, or that Alexis is like, oh, I got a frame here still. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna put those dimensions in. Go to Kinko's or somewhere. I'll pay the $1 with the $11 frame to have a completely berserk piece of original artwork. And again, too, some people are like, do you have the art? Oh, actually, this is a challenge. I just realized. Sometimes when you go to print out big things or whatever, they're like, well, who's the original artist? Like, we can't do this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to explain something to you, and it's going to take a minute, but I'm going to be like, Kinko's, you're going to have to fucking, like, amend a few things, because this kind of changes. It's like, no one made this, and I'm free to use it. I
can give you the location of 4 of the servers.
Yeah, I'll bring my laptop and just show you how it works. But then lie to them and be like, oh, it costs like $1 million a year. Like, it's crazy. It's brand new. And they'll be like, this guy came in. Clearly not a millionaire. It's someone who can afford $1 million a year for this weird thing. And that he drove in a beat-up Prius, and he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and he was like, hey, I'm trying to do this bullshit. Oh, my God. I had so many other things I was going to yell about, but this is actually too interesting. So, you know what? I started off on some weird tangent, but yeah, the ramifications of Midjourney, it's so weird how there's 2 lanes of ramifications, right? There's like, there's the things you can do with it. No, there's 3. There's the things you can do with it. The possibilities are bonkers endless. And it's good, by the way, it's going to get better over time. Per the way it works, per its real purpose, I believe. But the possibilities of the Civil War, there are endless. And it's, so there's that. So I'll be thinking of new applications constantly. But then there's also like the legal ramifications. Again, you go to a Kinko's, they're like, well, we need the artist to sign off on it. It's like, it's a horrible machine somewhere. Multiple somewheres. Like, I don't know. Like, that's not how it works. There's all that. Or if I write a story, use it to make the art, but then also do the thing where you can kind of get it to get the words to appear in the art. So I make a few pieces of it that kind of have it built in. So it's like, well, you can't use this image because this guy owns the copyright to the story he wrote, and part of that is built. Like, you can't erase that. It's part of the image. Like, you can't even get it out from underneath the words. The words are like this thing built into it. And yeah,
I love all of these,
dude. That I gotta say, this is why I love showing it to other people. I forgot how cool the make it look like an old school, 1700s or whatever that Japanese art style came. Was that about 1617, or is it way older than that? The one that we're probably both thinking of the most.
It's I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's Yukio.
Okay, I've heard that.
Ukiyue.
Yukio, yeah, I think I've heard other people say it like that because it sounds familiar. But when though? Look up the years, because it might be 900. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, they've obviously always had art in Japan, but there's going to be different styles and stuff. These CBD cigarettes that I got do not stay lit like a cigarette, and I kind of they have a million times more CBD in them.
17th century through the 19th.
How close was I? And I don't know shit about any of that, really. I think I just remember reading it somewhere. There's that.
For those of you listening, if you've seen that Japanese print painting of the wave, that's exactly.
That's one of those. Or the if anyone's a fan of Mad Men, as I am, and you should be, in Burt Cooper's office, the an octopus pleasuring a woman. Yes. It was from. I think they said it was 150 years old in 1969 or whatever. So yeah, that would have been that tracks.
The woodblock prints.
Yeah, God, that picture is amazing too. Put woman being pleasured by an octopus in there. See what you get.
Is it going to get me moved from this?
Or? I don't know. I mean, I've seen some things, so I don't know. Although I think it wouldn't... It didn't let me do one thing. Crucified. It was like, you can't use that. And I was like, oh, really? So... And by the way, I discovered that within 45 minutes of getting access to this thing. I found something that you can't use. And I was throwing whatever. But yeah, it's like the Last Crusade. Like that, it doesn't go across the seal. That's the price of immortality. You just can't quite do everything. So someone makes a copy of it where you can. Like, yeah, I wanted to remember that famous piece of graffiti because it was drawn so beautifully with a Sharpie. Realistically, with the hair coming out of things and stuff. Someone made a swastika made out of penises, but like photorealistically drawn with a Sharpie on a wall of a green room somewhere. We called it the cockstica, with the swastikals in the middle. Yeah, all the balls were like pushed together. But it's like, can you make that? Which, by the way, I'm thinking probably trips every last phrase in the sentence you would need to make that probably would get you kicked out. But I didn't get kicked out. It was just like, oh, you can't use this word. And then it said attempts to circumvent this, you know, to get what you want out of it anyway. That will result in you getting in trouble. So it gave me the little... It's like it knows, you know, or they knew. I was just like, well, I couldn't. I read that and I'm like, okay, I see. I find that to be interesting, though, because that's, you know, like a riot in hell, and it was all, like, you can't really see their junk, but it was naked guys, like, wrestling in fire, pretty much. So, I mean, I don't know. Let me get back, more importantly, these CBD cigarettes I'm smoking, because I'm always smoking these on this show, because it looks like I'm smoking for real, but it also kind of mellows me out. These have, like, those regular cigarette-y ones, they have, like, 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams of CBD, and these have like 200. So I mean, it's nice, but they're like, and they're probably better for me too because they don't contain the thing that lets it just sit there and smoke. Like I have to smoke it like so fast that like I couldn't talk, or just constantly keep relighting it. And to be fair, isn't lighting the cigarette the most dramatic part? But I digress. Bill, say something while I smoke the rest of this, will you?
This is an amazing thing, and I don't know how I'm not going to get anything else done.
Nope, me neither. It really fucked me up for the last few days, matter of fact. Like, oh, but here's the thing. If you're doing stuff on the computer, this is what I figured out. And good, that was a good prompt. Now I can yell more. It does take a second. Especially if you're, like, running a bunch of them at once. Which I've been doing, again, because it's like I was never happier to pay for something in my life, really, especially a computer thing, because I just steal those. Oh, don't act surprised. But, like, of all people who think I pay for software, Jesus. Yeah, like, since I have to pay for it, I am also putting it through the fucking ringer. And so, like, oh shit, I should get Discord on my other computer with the way bigger, nicer screen. That's what I should do. Oh yeah, but see, do more than one thing at once, so it's like, work on something, check on where your pictures are, work on something, check on where your pictures are. It's actually kind of nice. It's so much better than doom scrolling. You're just like, oh yeah, like, let me see, you know, sentient Big Mac eating the Hamburglar. Like, okay, how's that coming along? Like, whatever.
The mushroom cloud over Cinderella's castle is nice.
Oh, that's incredible. God. It's like you almost get mad at other people's ideas when they're good, but you're not, because it's such a pure and beautiful thing, the likes of which, like, again, also, you know, the use of it, of whatever, wherever they're going with this, might be somewhere awful, I don't know. Or maybe being able to read people's dreams would be good. I mean, I think. I don't know, everyone gets that Rogan idea right away. Like, I don't know, bro, they're going to use that to do that. But, like, and I don't even necessarily mean him, I kind of mean more like people that are fans of him. I think he gets excited about things, but, or sometimes he does that hot dog man where he's like, oh, and he's like, oh my God, they're going to do this. Oh my God, our liberty and our privacy, that's gone, Joe. And if you have $100 million and you're best friends with Elon Musk, I mean, it's gone for everyone but you. So I think it'll be just fine. Alright, smoking this is just fucking a problem. It's a good smoke, but it's just not a good... They're not good TV cigarettes, which is basically what I kind of like to do. Because, again, my joke is I'm not going to sit here and smoke inside my house like an anti-vaxxer. I'm going to fucking, smoke nice weed-smelling things that are kind of good for me. Yeah, and I do have a little bit of a droopy eyelid, like... When you have enough CBD in you, you finally start actually feeling kind of like a boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-bumble-wow. That sounded more like porno. I was trying to think of like a cool, like early 70s kind of driving through the city, all high. Welcome to KERP, the late night sounds of driving high in New York City in the 70s. It's probably been about 15 minutes since you've looked out your front window, so I'm here to remind you right now before we put on this next 17-minute-long jam groove that you should probably poke your head out of your car. Now, I know you might be worrying, but remember, you weren't moving this whole time, so you're going to be okay, baby. Boy, I wish that was a job. Or maybe it is. Was that ASMR? Does that work for anybody? Just me? Me, 70s drive time, just explaining things like... Midjourney is like a woman you can't quite trust. You're going to have a real good time, but down the road, your rights will be removed from you. The children you've made together don't really belong to you. They belong to the Midjourney AI, and at some point, baby, they might just take them back from you. So my suggestion to all of you lovers out there is to go ahead and get Midjourney AI through a Discord server of your choice. Start making real weird shit with it. Start making... propaganda with it. Things that will frighten your horrible relatives on Facebook. Because if you can get Photoshop, but you can also get it from Fonto. It's an app for the iPhone where you can put text over pictures and layer stuff together. Again, it's time to start making your own propaganda. Make a pregnant Statue of Liberty nailed to a cross crying blood and put lifetime appointment over it. And just share that with everyone you don't like on the internet. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the results. Also, the kind of people you're going to be using this to terrify will never be able to figure out how to use it. Discord server, that's not Fox News. So they're stuck. And if you're getting into an argument with someone on Facebook about something and you don't like them, and you just want to fill it up with pictures, but... you don't want to just take random stuff off the internet. You want to give them a bespoke nightmare, tailor-made, so that they question how on earth that would have existed ahead of time. And just inundate them with that. And with any luck, they'll overdose on Oxycontins. And next Thanksgiving, you'll be a proud homeowner. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about it for the podcast. It's only been 57 minutes, but I've got to say that, oh, by the way, I like when I put my face right next to it. I'm also blocked by the logo, so this is like, watching this is just the worst waste of time that anyone could ever, I mean, it already is, but maybe you learned. We can't. In the long, arduous, and difficult journey of learning how to make AI-assisted propaganda, we can't tell you where to go, and we certainly can't tell you how to get to the end. But hopefully, this podcast has helped you get midway through that journey.
The Reverend John Wheeler podcast takes zero responsibility for the words, actions, or ideas of its host, guests, or listeners. Though the people on the screen may at times be speaking directly to you, and may occasionally give you direct calls to action, neither Reverend John nor the Alchemical Cocktail Lounge are under any moral or legal obligation to answer for the potentially disastrous repercussions that may arise if you are stupid enough to actually follow the orders of a raving lunatic. Think for yourself and do whatever you want, because you're on your own. If anyone ever tries to sue this podcast, black SUVs will converge on your location in the darkness of night and you will never be seen again. Remember to like and subscribe.